Have you ever seen Hard Boiled? Great flick. One of the best Hong Kong action films. John Woo's last Hong Kong action film before his move to Hollywood. And an excellent primer on his whole style. Birds, literally explosive action, fluid movement, lots of vertical interest. Everything with smooth jazz trilling through a cigarette haze. It follows an episode in the life of Detective Tequila, played by Chow Yun-fat, as he busts open a triad weapons deal conspiracy. The whole back half is just one massive shootout in a hospital, with lots of iconic gun-fu moments, lots of jumping through the air, shooting two pistols, and screaming. Well, 14 years after the movie, Midway released a video game sequel, Stranglehold, a stylish third-person shooter with mechanics seemingly inspired by the Max Payne series, which itself was cribbing notes from films like Hard Boiled. Chow Yun-fat returns, John Woo is on as an executive producer, and it's a loose sequel to the film. The plot doesn't really continue, rather it's just another tequila adventure. First of all, I grabbed this off GOG and played with the mouse and keyboard, since there's no controller support. Back on the Xbox 360 release, I remember the controls being a lot smoother. There's a certain twitchiness to the mouse aiming that I just could not get rid of in the options, and the field of view seems too pinched for PC. Tequila often takes up most of the screen, while the camera jitters around like a cat on a jackhammer. I chalked this up to a mediocre port. There's some mods available to fix it, but I decided to go vanilla, on the easiest difficulty, with the aim assist cranked up. I had a vague recollection that some moments of this game were extremely frustrating out of the blue. I was right. I finished it in around 4 hours on that difficulty. We start with a pretty simple setup. In Chicago, the kidnapping of Tequila's ex-wife and daughter, interwoven with the Hong Kong execution of a police officer. Right off the rip, this game is capturing those iconic John Woo shots. We don't have many returning characters from the movie. I don't recall any mention of this love interest in Hard Boiled, at least. John Woo reprises his role as a random bartender, though. The first mission of the game is definitely what sold me. It was the demo mission you could download on Xbox Live, an action-packed shootout in a dense urban landscape where almost everything is destructible. It's a great introduction to the specifics of this game, the different flavors of shooter mingling here. We've got the obligatory 2007 cover system that barely functions, the lack of reloading you'd expect from a boomer shooter, some really interesting movement options inspired by the films, and activatable abilities fed by how cool you look racking up kills. One of the big features is Tequila Time, a slow motion ability that triggers whenever you do something slick or just right click. Pressing space dives Tequila in your move direction or locks him on to any of the white-lined movement set pieces in range. And when an enemy comes on screen during these movements, time slows and we're given a chance to line up a nice shot. The cooler the kills, the more skater mana we generate for heals, deadeye shots, a rage mode, and a sweet cinematic spin that outright kills everything in the area and spawns doves. The destructive environments are still impressive. I actually found myself dying because I was too interested in demolishing the landscape. And the first mission is brimming with objects you can hit that will fly apart or fall and crush some hapless goon. There's also a great sense of forward momentum in most of the first mission, at least. We use the stunt movement options to constantly advance and clear from alleyways through buildings into a marketplace. Then it comes to a head in a tea house boss fight. This is the first sign of my biggest problem with the game, the constant arena-style shootouts where we're locked in a rectangle and enemies pour in from the sides gradually. Something about these sections make the movement options feel very gimmicky. I think it's because they give us the illusion of rapid movement, but we're ultimately trapped in a small area, running circuits as we mow enemies down while waiting for new enemies to enter. Sometimes I use the dive to quickly spot check if the slow-mo would activate in a given space to reveal any obscured gangsters. It felt a little too gamey. Anyways, we kill that first boss, and are treated to a truly excellent one-liner.
I told you not to go in alone.
I didn't. Brought my two friends. This is what
Nice.
I need wanted us to.
There's a lot of classic action movie dialogue in this game that I really appreciate. As always, the chief scolds us, and then we're off on the trail of the triads. The second mission sees us in a seaside shanty slum, hunting drug labs down through a frankly confusing wooden platform rig thing. There's still a few interesting uses of the destructive environments, mostly shooting down poles to create new paths forward, or obliterating shanty walls to get at the enemies behind. There's also a bunch of these giant boulders being supported by flimsy scaffolding. My least favorite type of environmental kill, because why are they there? Explosive barrels I can forgive. I've been around. I know they exist. But what reason is there to prop 100 tons of rock up with a single 2x4? Are these guys running some insurance scam? There's a lot of neat stuff going on in the town itself, and this is the mission where we unlock the barrage ability. So we really get to aerate those doodads. There's also a helicopter machine gun section, because of course there was. This game was released on the 360 after all. And the mission ends with some classic bomb planting in a dry dock. This section is interesting because it's almost a clumsy puzzle game where we have to search and shoot specific environmental objects to extend the path to reach the planting points. The objects are just on the edge of well hidden and poorly hidden. Each mission is distinctly themed around at least one pretty cool set piece moment, then padded out by the increasingly annoying arena shootouts. They become more tedious as the game goes on, as our enemies gain more health, and even on the easy difficulty, it was a bit laughable how many shots some of these guys could take. We've got a casino tower, a natural history museum, a slum, a palace. Each level is distinct and has its own range of enemies. One thing that always bothered me in this game is the enemies have way more weapon models and cutscenes than actually appear in game. One of my pet peeves is not getting access to the cool weapons the boss used. We've got a limited arsenal really, only around 7 guns, and 3 of them are rare. We can dual wield the smaller weapons, but we can only carry 2 types at a time. The ammo runs out fast, so there's a lot of grab and drop shooting going on that I've always really dug. One other mechanic I neglected: standoffs, where everyone pulls a gun on each other, waits a beat, and then we start dodging bullets and returning fire. These start off with just a few enemies involved, but towards the end of the game they start involving small crowds, and the setups for these are sometimes astonishingly funny. There's some memorable boss fights, like the Russian guy with his swarms of insta-kill mines. It's an interesting fight. Since you're used to jumping and sliding around by this point, pressing the dodge button will almost definitely kill you in any of these rooms, so it takes a little readjustment. My favorite sequence is in the 3rd level, where we're trawling through a casino tower trying to rescue Tequila's daughter. We stumble across a jazz band and...
Who told you to stop playing?
When a member dies in the crossfire, their instrument stops in the backing track. It's awesome, it's dumb, it's fun, and that's really the heart of this game. Story-wise, it's pretty standard triad action drama stuff. Tequila's Boo Thang is actually the daughter of the triad head honcho. The Chicago gang kidnapped the duo for leverage against the triad, but the triad is using Tequila to whittle down their opponents so they can snatch the market, then kill him and his family to snip those loose ends. It doesn't work, obviously, because Tequila is some kind of incarnate death god. It's a passable story, but much like Hard Boiled, I'm gonna remember the sweet shootouts, not the family drama. Overall, I found Stranglehold way more cool than good. There's a kitchen sink method to the mechanics they threw in, and the lack of focus makes it a bit of a time capsule of everything 2007. It's honestly average in execution, but everything happening is just so earnestly rad. There's such production value, such a great sense of timing, both in the humor and in the action sections. and the cutscenes have the cinematography and pacing of a real good time action movie. Plus, it's giving you the tools to accomplish very cinematic moves in the game, when it isn't tripping over itself. On the trusty pain scale, I'd give this one a slightly painful. It has flaws for sure, but it's so fast-paced that the issues don't become too cumbersome, and it's got such a distinct and fascinating style that I only started to really notice the problems in retrospect. It's also one of the few movie tie-in games from this era that really stands on its own. Most of them were pretty cheap cash grabs for a few years there. Well, that's all for my 39th review. I had a weird false memory about this game. I thought Tequila wore a white suit or a white trench coat throughout the whole thing. Never shows up in the story, so that might be a bit of cross-pollination with one of the Hitman games. Who knows? Well, thanks for tuning in. See ya.